Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sold As Is. It's Matt and Tom here from Keller Williams here to share some new stuff. It's been a while, huh, Matt?
It's been a while.
It's new in the market right now.
Everybody's out there looking to
when
they're looking at properties, like where can they expand the value of the home, and that's the hot topic right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're finding with the prices right now, for especially here in Los Angeles, the only way to really look at a property and pay so much is what is its improved value potential to be.
What we were saying on our last video was added value.
That's
the huge thing.
So ADU seems to be the big topic. So we were fortunate enough to take a class with an architect who specializes in that. So you and I, we have some notes and stuff like that to share with everybody. So if you are thinking about buying a property as an investment and maybe adding some ADUs, this content is directly for you guys. So let's jump in and get started.
Yeah. Let's just start with some of the basics, like what is an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit?
Right. So we found as there's not much land available here in LA, the only place that you can add on is through the existing properties that are there. So the city of Los Angeles changed the guidelines and now allowed these accessory dwelling units to be legal and part of real estate now.
Yeah. So one of the basics, just with a house is just doing a garage conversion.
Correct.
Right. So doing a garage conversion, making that an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. One of the things that you're going to have to look out for that is you need to cut off the entrance from the garage to the main house.
Correct.
You need to wall that up and make that fire rated. So that's one of the things that when you're thinking about doing the conversion is that automatically needs to have no direct access to the house.
Right, so we'll talk a little bit about the garage conversion ADU process and what are some of the check marks that you need to have. So one, no direct access from the garage to the house, and more along the lines for fire rated safety is that there for, right? You can also put a kitchen or kitchenette or even a hot plate. There doesn't necessarily have to be a full kitchen in there to be permittable.
Right.
What else?
Bathroom. It could be just a studio, or it could be a one bedroom.
Right, so there's no guideline on whether you want to just make it one big giant studio, or do you want to put a little wall up and make a bedroom, maybe two bedrooms out of that. But yeah, what else?
You'll need to add a site address to it. So if you're 123 ABC Street, it'll be 123.5 ABC Street.
Exactly. What about utilities?
That was a topic that we were discussing before the class.
Yeah.
Was we thought that when you were doing the permit process that you had to make sure that it had dedicated water and electricity meter, but what we found out is that's just an additional fee that they want. You can actually do the conversion and have it all tied into one, still one bill,
right?
And not necessarily have it divvied up, per unit, which probably would be ideal when it comes to paying,
right?
But you don't need to do it, which is something that we learned that I didn't know as well.
Yeah. I think when you find people that are doing it for more of the cost effectiveness, it's going to be, the path of least resistance is just to tie it all into one water, one electricity, one gas, and stuff like that. So I think if for rentability, I think to have your own meter is going to be better, because how do you rent out the main house or rent out and then have to share utilities?
Yeah,
could be an issue, but the interesting thing is there's no guideline for that. It's totally your call, right?
Which I thought was interesting. So when it comes down to divvying up bills, you may have people that are unhappy.
Good luck with that, you guys.
Yeah.
And the next item for an accessory dwelling unit is going to be a detached ADU. So this is something detached from the house, and some interesting things to talk about on that in square footage, right?
Yeah. So with the detached ADU, you can build up to about 1,200 square feet is the max that they'll let you build up to. And you can build 2 levels, as high as I believe 16 to 18 feet, depending on city guidelines.
Right.
But that's still a really big unit. Sometimes you'll see detached units that are bigger than the main house.
Right, and you have a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 900 square foot house, and then you put a 1,200 square foot ADU behind it. It's like the ADU is bigger than the main house. It was interesting to hear from the architect too, because he talked about height guidelines, and that each city area might have a 16-foot or an 18-foot, or and some little tricks on how they get around that and stuff like that. Was interesting to see that. But ideally, there's going to be some height restrictions there, and then the power poles.
Yeah, he also mentioned that to be aware of the power poles, because the city when you go to pull permits, they'll say, yeah, you can build here, but a lot of times it's the inspectors that come and they kind of throw a monkey wrench in the whole deal and, you know, kind of cap you out as far as saying that, you know, this power pole, you're too close. You need to be 3 or 5 feet away from this power pole, and really just kind of throw a monkey wrench into your whole, you know, building process. So
and he was kind of saying that you don't know that until the city guy comes out and says, hey, what are you going to do about that? And then it's like, oh, sabotage the whole unit.
Yeah.
And so I think for agents like us, that's going to be a big takeaway, is we're looking at taking clients out to potential investment properties like that. We now strategically need to look at where are these power poles, where are the lines hanging over, because he said it was going to be super expensive.
He said about $20,000 to move a pole.
To move a pole, and that's if they give you that right to even do that. So if you're thinking about ADUs, power lines, definitely going to be something that you want to definitely look into. And then also if it's new construction, which it's going to be, there's some, what would they call it? Solar.
Yeah, so new construction moving forward needs to have solar panels on it.
Right.
The architect told us that the move around on that is that everything has to be energy efficient.
Right.
That's the way that they move around, not having to put solar panels, because they can be expensive.
Yeah.
So making sure that the panels on the windows are energy efficient, the insulation,
light fixtures.
The light fixtures, the toilets, everything in that unit needs to be energy rated, and that's the way that they get around putting solar panels on new construction.
Or it's a potential workaround. Because I think he kind of made it seem like he's been able to get a few of those through.
Yeah.
Some of them may just, no bueno.
Yeah.
And you're putting solar in there. And then an interesting thing too, no more gas.
Yeah, no more gas. Everything's moving to electric stove.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have a gas property with gas in it, you're grandfathered in. But anything new is going to be all electric.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of interesting as well. And setback requirements also for these ADUs that are going to be in behind the property.
Right.
There's certain setback requirements from the backyard, the side yard. 3 to 5 feet kind of seems to be the norm.
Yeah.
And then new construction, I think, allows you to get a little bit closer to the property lines than older dwellings and stuff like that. But I think when you're looking at an ADU and adding it, looking at the footprint of the lot, making sure that as you're building it, like what's the available space when you minus out that setback from the back and the sides and stuff like that.
And then I think landscape as well. They want for the front yard. They want 50% landscape.
Yeah, that was
interesting.
Really interesting too, because sometimes properties sit back deep in the lot, and you're thinking, I'm going to add to the front, or for parking purposes, I'll make a circular driveway there. But if that circular driveway is going to take up more than 50% of the front space there, that's a no-go.
Yeah.
So interesting there as well. So parking is definitely going to be something. And he talked about that as an architect, that he looks at the overall parking ability, I would say, for the area. That if you're in an area that's highly dense, parking, meaning that you got to park 4 or 5 houses, 10 houses down the road just to get to your place. He said that that's something you should pay attention to as in building an ADU. Are you adding additional stress to the area with parking? Because parking is not allocated for these ADUs, so you can take up all your property and not have to worry about parking like you used to as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting that he looks at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about some creative. Would it be okay if we transition to that?
Sure.
There were some creative things that we heard during the class that other agents have been able to witness or do. Mainly was taking a home and splitting it in half.
Yeah.
And then turning the single house into a duplex.
Yeah.
And then all that meant was just putting a wall up, right? Split it. And then what was also interesting is because the city allows you to split it, you can also build an additional, each one of those will get an ADU.
Yeah.
So they turned this single family, split it into a duplex.
Became a duplex.
And then the duplex, you were able to build these 2 ADUs. So they turned this single home into a 4-unit property.
So, in that particular case, the lady was saying that the guy was kind of scraping the house to begin with and was going to remodel the whole house. And he left one wall standing and decided to split it down the middle, like you said. So he made a half a house here and a half a house there, and that actually qualified him, like you said, to put put 2 more ADUs, so he turned a single family dwelling into a 4-unit, which kind of moves us into the zoning conversation, because prior to this whole ADU stuff, investors were looking for RD2 or RD 1.5 properties, because those are the only ones that could really be developed into duplex, triplex, or fourplexes. And right now, the architect was saying the whole zoning formulas are kind of out the door, because you can do 1 to 4 units depending on how you strategize your development.
Yeah, really
that
interesting.
way.
Really.
And then what about junior ADUs?
Right. So there's that one. There's also junior ADU. So let's talk about that. So very similar situation. You have your home.
Yep.
Right. Then you can build your detached accessory dwelling unit up to 1,200 square feet, 2 levels. And then you can take your garage and you can convert that into a junior ADU.
Right.
So
as long as it's attached
as long
to
as
the
it's
house.
attached. Yeah, as long as it's attached to the house. Again, wall it up. But yeah, so then you can turn your home, build it, and then turn your junior ADU, and you can have 3 units.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be a garage. Like you said, you could have had an enclosed patio or a den area or a large rec room, and as long as it's attached to it, you could actually add another ADU there as well. So 3 units?
3 units.
So what else? One of the things that was interesting he talked about was deal fatigue. Do you remember that? That was an interesting conversation, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, he more of set it up in the sense that, all of this can be very stressful. It can be a lot of permits and a lot of this and a lot of that. And he finds that a lot of times the clients that he work with, at the beginning they're gung-ho, and then later down the transaction they like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he called it deal fatigue, and I understand, this can be a lot of decisions, a lot of this, a lot of that, paperwork, and it was just interesting that he called it deal fatigue. And, and in our business, I think we see that as well, on our end.
And so, if this is something that's been on your mind of doing, just understand this is going to be a lengthy process, and be prepared for some potential deal fatigue in here, and don't let that fatigue wear you out, because I think there are always going to be hurdles in this stuff, because I think when you're dealing with the city and the planning department and stuff like that, sometimes the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand, and you just got to be prepared to go through the motions of that stuff like that as well, right? So for our clients, what are we looking for because I kind of feel, after being in the trenches with some of these guys, of getting a good gauge on what makes for a good lot or a good property for investments. For me, I found having a house that's got a detached garage that's in the back seems like an ideal setup.
Right.
For
corner unit.
A corner lot.
Corner lot.
Right, a corner lot property, you guys, where you could take the front half of the house and lot and use that for the main house, and then the back half could be the detached garage back there, where they can now really kind of separate 2 lots like that.
Yeah.
I think that's our vision, is really how, is someone going to give you a premium rent for a property where it just doesn't flow right. And what we're finding are the ones that have maybe the main house in the front with a detached garage in the back, where you could see how this property could be nicely split up and architecturally friendly and pleasing to the community would be good. So main houses with detached garages and corner lots seem to be what we're hunting after.
That's our blueprint. Those are the properties that we think make beneficial. You're right, because when a tenant comes in, can I see myself being able to park easily? Can I see myself being able to have a little bit of time in the morning when I want to have coffee and enjoy my own privacy, and not have my neighbors just come out there and
howdy neighbor.
It's like we all want that privacy. I always joke. One time, me and my wife, we went to go have an anniversary dinner, and it was a nice restaurant. We did it in Santa Monica at a nice steakhouse, and we just got everybody, beach bumming, looking over us, eating a nice dinner. Like, that looks good, and we're just like, thanks, we're trying to enjoy a nice moment. So I can imagine tenants, they want to have their, a nice moment together, or they want to have their privacy. So we want to take that into consideration when we're looking at projects.
Absolutely. When I have an investor out there, it's like, look, you're going to want $3,200 for that ADU. No one's going to give you $3,200 when they don't have a nice footprint to walk around in or to work in. They may give you $2,200 to live with the neighbor, with the guy living in the front house. But when you're looking for a good amount of rents, I think you need to look at, what are you offering that consumer, and that's what we look at and
For
stuff
sure.
like that. So listen, if any of this resonates with you, or you would love to get some more information or dive into that process, we'd love to spend some time. There'll be a link down below that you can click to book a meeting with us. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below as well, because that lets you know you like this content and we can bring some more stuff out to you. And we're a family run business, father and son team here, and we love to be part of that home buying experience with you. So we'll catch you on the next episode of Sold As Is, right?
Yep. See you guys later.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.